In this video, we strive to remain spoiler-free, discussing only story and plot elements from the books relevant to what has occurred already on the show. When necessary, a spoiler warning with a countdown will be given.
I'm Max.
I'm Bill, also known as Matt Stagger, and welcome to What the Adaptation, where we take things from one medium, check it out in another medium to see if they mesh up together. And today we are doing The Shining from one of my favorite authors, Stephen King. Max, what do you think about it?
Of course, I love this Kubrick version of The Shining.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of a double-edged sword where, as a movie, it is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it, from the soundtrack to the shots to the cinematography, everything is awesome. As an adaptation, when you compare it to the book, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
The changes are huge and far-reaching throughout the story.
So the first question of the night is, what was changed from the source material, and did those changes impact your enjoyment of the film?
Okay. Yes. Okay. In the book, there's a subtle decline in Jack's mental health. In the
just
movie,
just a subtle.
Okay, there is a, it's a lot more subtle than Jack Nicholson is in the movie, because from the word go, you're like, this guy is out of his goddamn mind immediately. I've always gotten that vibe the first time I watched the movie without having read the book. I was way too young, probably 10, 11 years old. As soon as he came on screen, I was like, that guy's crazy. Plus, there is zero redemption for Jack in the movie. None.
That's accurate.
And in the book, there is a redemption arc for Jack.
One of the things that definitely stood out to me is like just comparing the two, that I don't know if you want to call it themes, but like from like you start the movie, one of the first things that you see is like tension. It's tension from start of the movie to the end of the movie. It's straight up tension.
The music and the opening shot is just, it's spine chilling.
Mm-hmm.
It draws you in, and it also gets you on edge because it's just off.
Every moment of the movie, there's just something in there that just makes you, like you said, on edge. Something isn't right, and you can't quite pinpoint, and that's something in Kubrick's filmography in this movie.
Yeah, the subtle changes he would make in the background. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if you noticed, sometimes the table will be there in the shot. Mm-hmm. They'll cut to a close-up, they'll cut back, and the table is gone. And it sets your nerve endings sort of tingling. Something's wrong with the picture. I mean, the TV with no plug. You're like, where's the plug?
One of the I think it's one of the opening parts where he's going to the interview, and if you just watch the path he's taking to the room, you see where he's going, and it's an impossible room. There is no way that room has an exterior window.
Yeah, looking outside. That was the thing, is the daylight coming through. You're like, that shouldn't be possible at all.
And you don't know if, like, is the house changing things, or is this just Kubrick messing with you? And I think the answer is yes.
That's the thing, is I think it's both. I don't think Kubrick ever made a shoot in a scene without meticulously going through and deciding what was going to happen. So I get people all the time, they're like, that table missing is a continuity error. I'm like, I don't think it was. No. It was definitely there to set you off and make you realize something's wrong.
And it's like that scene I mentioned, is like that was a continuous shot until he gets to the room where he does a very subtle shift. It's a what do you call, like a cut edit thing, where they shift transition where he's sitting in the room.
That's right about the time where he says, I'll have some coffee. They do that switch.
Yep.
It's very unsettling. Everything about this is unsettling.
And you compare it to the book, and you have moments where like there's funny moments. You have
Yeah,
moments where it's like, oh, they're a fun family. Or I'm trying to say fun family, but you have moments of points where like the family's getting along together well.
yeah, especially in the beginning.
Yeah. Um, you have parts where like Danny, how do you put it, loves his father. It's made very clear that he loves his father.
Oh yeah, when he's sitting on the swing waiting for
Yeah.
him to come back from the interview, there's an entire, chapter that is basically about.
Like
I'd go
Wendy's
so
like he's a
far.
daddy's boy. He loves his daddy.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely is
From the moment he's
blinded by
born.
his love for his father, and you see that
Mm-hmm.
even with some of Jack's failings, Danny can't see him because he loves his dad.
Mm-hmm. And like having seen the movie and read the book and like kind of knowing the uh Danny's future type angle part, my
Mhm.
mind's like he knows what's going to happen, so he's trying to make sure he gets as much time as he can with his dad.
Yes, that is a great point. I never looked at it that way, but yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because when Wendy comes out and offers to fix his glider, he's like, no, no, I have to wait for dad
Mm-hmm.
because that's would be a bonding moment for him. So yeah, I can see that 100%.
Because
I
he
never
knows he
looked at
only
it that way.
has 6 years.
Deep down, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
Tony knows.
Yep. And I have that in my notes here, like given the Tony thing and the whole backwards forward time thing going on, like I think that's in his subconscious, like he knows he only has 6 years in the books. And
Yeah.
we don't really quite have that in the movie, but there is kind of elements in there, sort of, but it's really
Um,
kind of like,
I think there's a nod to that when
yeah.
Danny passes out and then it goes to the shot of him in the room.
Mm-hmm.
If you look on his door, he has the seven dwarfs. Um, when they cut back, Dopey is gone. It's almost like, it's the loss that first vision was a loss of his innocence. The sort of dopey, innocent side of Danny is gone.
Let's see. I know I had parts where like things that were similar, like we had the kind of like the doctor scene at the beginning of the movie with the mother.
Yeah.
That wasn't obviously that wasn't a one to one by any means,
No.
but there were elements that were very similar. Um, the mother smoking, for instance, was like she smoked in the books.
Yeah.
Um, if he didn't read the books, he wouldn't have known that, so he included that.
Yeah. I definitely know he read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when he spoke to Stephen King personally, because he called him up to try and get the rights personally.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen King had mentioned he had read the book, and he said he loved the book. But I can't see Kubrick shooting the story from the book. I just
Oh no.
in my head I can't relate those two. One of my big issues with the movie is though, in the book, Wendy is so much stronger.
Yeah.
She has way more agency, and she's kind of a badass in the book. We do not get that with Shelley Duvall.
And like in that part, it's like I think that's a Kubrick thing. He
I
had
think
as
so.
a director, as a person, he wasn't good on that front.
Yeah, no, I mean he did not treat her well during the
No.
filming. From what I understand, it was quite traumatizing for Shelley
Yeah.
Duvall the entire shoot, to the point where Kubrick was telling other crew members to be mean to her on purpose,
If
which is just
anything,
messed up, man.
I was gonna say if anything like that really showed like the last half of the movie, like her screaming at Jack, like the trauma she showed towards him, like that showed at that moment.
I think so. Yeah, I mean there really is a sort of wounded mama bear aspect
Mm-hmm.
that comes out when she's confronting Jack, especially swinging the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't think that was necessarily directed at, say, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. I felt like that was because of everything Kubrick had done to that point. And
Yeah, I could see that.
I
To
just
this day,
don't yeah.
Shelley Duvall to this day says it was one of the hardest sets she's ever had to work, and it was, to the point where her hair was falling out from stress,
I'd believe
and
it.
she was smoking like a carton of cigarettes within a couple of days. But at the same time, she said it was also one of the most rewarding experiences she's ever had.
Hmm.
So I don't know what that says.
Hmm. I will say, like, I don't feel like she was like the worst actor I've ever seen by any means.
No,
I still feel like she did great in the show.
I think with what she was given, she absolutely killed it. It's just that her character was sort of dumbed down. I hate to say that,
Yeah.
but it really was.
And
They
I
made
like I say,
Wendy clueless.
I feel like that was a Kubrick thing. Like I feel like he had I don't know, something against women in that front. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
I
could
have to
see
see some
that.
of his other movies to really say for sure, but I feel like there's something on that front.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible, especially for the times.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, it might have been a Kubrick issue more than it was anything else.
Yeah, because he definitely made her a lot weaker, more of a wet noodle.
Very, yeah.
Um, you could definitely say at like the beginning of the film, her acting was very stiff, like with the doctor.
Yeah, I think so. But you could tell by the way she
Hmm.
was, I mean, even her movements were very, yeah, stiff,
Yeah,
confined, it feels like, almost like she was in prison.
yeah, and like as the film progresses, like you could see that like psychological trauma she was being dealt by Kubrick being like released, and it's like, yeah,
I always find it weird because the series, Wendy is played by Rebecca De Mornay, and it is just so much more Wendy, from the
hmm,
books, that when you kind of put those two performances up against each other, um, the contrast is amazing. It's just insane. I don't know if you've seen the series yet. I know we are
I've
going to
yet to
do
see
that.
it. But one thing I have in my notes is related to the your background,
Mm,
the carpet.
love the carpets, man.
In the movie, they have your thing, which is the moon landing. No, uh,
Yeah, you've seen 217, huh?
yeah, yep. Uh, Obviously, in the movie they have that carpet design, but in the book they have a was it birds and jungles and vines?
Yeah, it's a safari sort of room.
Yeah, and that kind of comes into play with Danny's visions, where like they grab at him.
Yeah, the fire hose in particular,
Yep.
comes to life as a snake and actually tries to get him. It's rather disturbing reading it. Um, seeing it in the series is sort of hokey.
I believe it, which is
So
probably why I think it was a good idea he left it out.
there are several things that Kubrick did that I think were brilliant, especially
Mhm.
some of the stuff he left out. Um, I do kind of wish we got more of Jack struggling with his alcoholism because, the first half of the book is a big section. Him on the phone, looking in at people in the bar having a beer, and the sort of anger and
Mhm.
jealousy he feels. I mean, just some hint to that might have been nice.
Uh, I know we didn't get a lot of his backstory on the college or teaching career he had,
Yeah.
and like that was completely cut, just like a off mention of teaching.
Well, I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, but here's the thing: you can totally knowing that you can totally picture Jack Nicholson being the guy who would beat the crap out of a student for
Mhm.
slashing his tires.
Right? Um, I know when we were like talking about the movie, Jack Nicholson, uh, acting wise, just his facial expressions and how he'd say things to Wendy was like 100% how I pictured him in the books. Because like you don't get in the movie his inner monologue. Like the shit he said in his mind whenever Wendy was talking was like, Jesus,
it was so much worse in his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even worse than what Jack Nicholson ends up saying. Because I mean, he says some pretty awful stuff, but I mean, what he's thinking in the book is so much worse.
Yeah. But like his facial expressions is like spot on for what he's thinking in the books.
Well, I mean, when he's talking to her and he's like, whenever you hear this, he's hitting up. I mean, yeah, he sells with his face, everything he does.
Yeah. It's something regarding a funny scene involving hedges. Oh, the checking out scene.
The topiary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We missed out Danny regarding the lady talking about getting in some guy's pants.
Yeah. Yeah, the older lady talking about getting into the bus boy or the what do they call the guy who takes your luggage out?
And then there was something about trimming some hedges or topiary or something like that. And even though we didn't quite get that, I think there was kind of a reference or nod to that because Jack Nicholson was looking at a what in the lobby?
A Playgirl.
Yeah.
A Playgirl magazine. Yeah.
So it's like, I want to say that was a nod to that at some capacity. Otherwise, I have no explanation for why Jack was looking at that.
Yeah, I don't have any explanation on why that would be in a hotel lobby, period. I mean,
or why Jack Nicholson was looking at it.
He's reading it for the articles?
I don't know.
That's all I can think.
Let's see. Yeah, I had the wholesome family orientated stuff. There's a side story involving the wasps.
Oh, the wasp nest. Yeah. That was pretty horrific. And I think it also shows it goes into the time thing. It kind of ties in, because, when they take it down, it's empty.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it respawns bees like a video game, or time's a little soft here in the hotel. And
well, another thing is like the time that they were in the hotel, when they arrive there, it feels like starts snowing like the next day.
Yeah, it does.
But they really get there in like September in the books.
Yeah. Yeah, they're there for a while and everything is actually pretty good.
Yeah. And like they're going up and down the hill to get milk and that stuff for quite a while before it starts snowing.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where Jack feels comfortable enough to climb on the roof and replace shingles. Yeah. So they're there for quite a while.
I can understand in the movie aspect why you didn't include, 4 months before winter. That'd have been a lot of extra movie.
It's also that most of that is internal dialogue.
Yeah.
Which, as you know, is really hard to adapt to film. I mean, Dune tried it with voiceovers and it did not work out well.
See, missed out on Jack in the History of the Overlook.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, honestly, that line of the book was never followed at all. I mean, it wasn't even hinted to that he went downstairs and discovered all these articles and sort of this history of the Overlook.
Like
and that's how the hotel got its hooks in him.
Yeah, the closest nod we have is like at the end of the movie, where we see like Jack's picture in the hotel.
Yeah, or there are some articles along with some rather racy pictures we see in the room with the boiler, but Wendy is down there taking care of the boiler instead of Jack. Yeah. So we do get a glimpse of some articles. I think that might have been a nod.
Yep. I just know like at the end of the movie, we have a picture of like Jack Nicholson in the old timey photos. And like then Grady in the movie was saying like, you've always been the caretaker.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was a different take on stuff going on.
Well, I mean, the whole resolution to the Overlook Hotel is completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, in the book,
It didn't
Jack
get
blows
resolved.
the place up.
Yeah, in the movie didn't get resolved. It's still going
At
on.
all.
Related to the Overlook history, we had the whole Al calling Jack, pissed off about trying to write a book about him because Jack had called Ullman, trying to like blackmail him about the book.
I think Ullman was much more of a sort of antagonist in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very happy and nice in the movie, and I mean, in the book, he's kind of an ass. He's good at what he does. Don't get me wrong; he's great for the hotel, but he's kind of an ass.
Yeah, but they did kind of go. They took away the moment where he was like asking Jack if he knew what cabin fever was, and Jack's like, he explains to Ullman what it is because he wants to be smarter than Ullman was to take away that I told you, you know. But then Ullman,
to sort of show him up and say,
of course I know what it is. I'm college, you know.
Yeah.
But in the movie, he just straight up tells Jack what it is, and Jack's just sitting there like mouth open.
You know what he's found odd is that Jack's response to that is how much Wendy is, you know, a big ghost and horror fan. He never tells Wendy.
Yeah.
I'm like, why throw that in there? You know, I'm still to this day trying to figure out why Kubrick threw that little line in there. I'm like, well, why?
Because he hates Wendy.
Yeah, I don't think he was a giant fan of Stephen King, honestly. You know, you've seen 217, the bug that gets squashed is the bug from the book. It's a completely different bug in his movie. It's different color, different year. So
obviously the room numbers got changed.
Yes, that was done at the request of the hotel where they filmed the movie because they actually had a room 237.
Yeah.
And they were like, nobody's going to want to stay there. I'm like, you know, the opposite is probably true. Everybody would want to
I think it was because they actually had a room 217 or something like that. It was like the whatever it was.
Yeah. In the book, it
was 217 in the book, 237.
It was 217. Yeah. They actually had a room 217.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
like
you're right.
And they had a 217 and the people were like still, even though they knew 217, they were still renting it out really fast.
Yeah. The Stanley Hotel rents that room out. They're like, it's very hard to book that room. People always want that room. And that's the room that King stayed in that gave him the idea for The Shining.
Let's see. Obviously, we have some of the differences I have is Danny tells Jack and Wendy that the ghost choked him. In the movie, he only told Wendy that the ghost choked him.
Yeah, and it's off screen, so I mean, we don't even.
And then he tells them about The Shining in the books.
See, I think they cut a lot of that Danny stuff because they were worried about traumatizing the little boy, which is weird because he was completely okay with traumatizing Shelley Duvall.
Right.
I mean, granted, there is an age difference, and I can understand maybe he had a little more sympathy for the little boy. He didn't even know it was a horror movie.
Jack investigates the bathtub. There's some minor changes with that one.
Yeah, he does see I don't know.
Ghost lady.
Yeah.
So like in the movie, he sees, you know, the pretty naked lady, and she sees like the decaying one.
The hag, yeah.
But in the book, he doesn't really see anyone. He gets a feeling and then like runs out of the room as he like hears someone chasing him.
Yeah, he does find like some smelly foulness within the tub, almost, you know, like decomp sort of stuff. And I think that's enough to spook him in the book where, yeah, man, he books it.
Definitely. I know there was one part where in the books, what was it? Wendy accused Jack of hurting Danny, but then Danny said that it was her, which was replying to Ghost Lady. And then Jack was like, "Oh, it was Wendy, ha ha ha! It was you that did it this time."
He completely tried to flip it on her and say, "You heard him. It's a her. Yeah, it was you. It was you. You hurt our son."
And that was a big thing with Jack, is always like constantly trying to do that kind of stuff.
I think that in particular gave him particular joy in the book
Yes.
because he had hurt Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that story was pretty accurate.
There's also like the generational trauma thing going on, because Jack's
Yeah,
parents were horrible.
horrible. Yeah, they were bad. I think it really shows, especially with the teaching job. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, the way he responds to a student slashing his tires is to get physically violent, and the way he thinks of violence as medicine,
Mm-hmm.
which is just insane. I mean, I don't know the last time I've heard a doctor prescribe a couple punches to my face.
That probably goes back to his parents prescribing
Yeah,
it.
I think so. And it shows just how sort of messed up and depraved they were.
Right. And that kind of goes back to like, I'm not entirely sure what's all with Jack. Like, is he have a little shine? I don't know. Is he easily possessed? Possibly.
There's a bunch of debate
Mm-hmm.
within the sort of Stephen King fandom of whether Jack had a little bit of shining or if Wendy had a little bit of the shining. And then I fall into the camp of I think they both had a little bit of shining, which is why Danny has a lot of shining.
I figured Wendy did because of Dick's comment about all mothers have a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Mother's intuition being a little bit of a shine.
But Jack's thing is like, I'm not sure, because like it feels like it's something different.
I feel like there's something there.
It almost feels like whatever like Tony is,
I feel
besides
like
like just,
something's
besides like the
there.
future self, like
It's just rotten.
possession. Yeah.
I feel like it's there, but it's rotten.
Mm-hmm.
It's decayed, whether that be his mental health or past trauma. But whatever shine he has isn't the same as Danny's at all.
Yeah.
It's much darker. I'm going to say it's tainted.
Yeah. And whatever that thing is, like easily possessed, whatever, because clearly
Yeah,
the
it opens
hotel
the
and him
door.
don't mix. Yeah.
No, no. It's funny how, by the end, the hotel makes it obvious that it's not really that interested in Jack. It wants Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And, finally seeing him come to that conclusion in the book is rather satisfying because you can see it like almost immediately in the books.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do that in the movie at all.
In the
They
movie, it's
mention,
more like a deal with the devil type thing going on.
well, yeah, because he doesn't see anything until he says, I'd sell my soul for a damn glass of beer. And then
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd.
Yep.
So, yeah, I always got the feeling that there was sort of a deal with the devil thing going on with Kubrick's version.
Yeah.
And that's
That.
why he's in the picture.
Yeah.
In.
If you've ever seen Ghost Ship, for instance,
Yes.
that it has the exact same vibe of Ghost Ship.
Yes, you're 100% right. Yeah, without the chain snapping everybody in half, which is the best part of Ghost Ship.
Well, it's like if you see Wendy going back through the hotel, for instance,
Yeah, yeah.
you
In
see
every
all the dead
room.
skeletons through the room, then she goes like sees the elevator. It's like it has the exact same vibe.
I love that the rest of the sort of movie watching universe that has never read the books to this day is going, WTF with Dog Boy? What the hell is going on there?
Well,
Like, read the
that,
book.
yeah, that's one part I was gonna mention. Like there was that whole dog boy thing that kind of chased Danny around, but just kind of stood around doing nothing.
Yeah, you get a lot more detail in the book of his backstory. I can't remember if that was in they have a foreword that has never been published that came out
Mm,
in I think the 80s, mid
okay.
80s in TV Guide. I think that goes more into the backstory of some of the residents of the Overlook,
Okay.
some of the incidents that they run into, including Dog Boy. So I can't remember
Mm,
if the particulars of that were just in that. Like, yeah, I don't remember reading anything else about him in the regular chapters. So that might be where I'm getting my info from.
But yeah, I just remember there was that whole weird scene when he goes through, she sees Dog Boy and the guy in the bed, and like, hell. And that look on her face is like, I don't think they told her about that guy in there.
It is very shocked and very, what the is happening?
My head canon is they did not tell the actress what she was going to see when she walked up in that room and saw that.
You know what? I just finished watching it, and I think I'm going to watch it again tonight, just for some of these moments that you're pointing out that I didn't think of. Because now I'm really interested. I really want to see her facial expression.
I just believe that they didn't tell her about that.
I could believe it. I mean, they were pretty horrible to her, so that would not surprise me in the least.
When Jack got like locked up by Wendy, was similar in the book versus the movie ish. Let's see. He was possessed by the house I have, and he starts justifying all the abuse his father did to his mother in the books.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He starts running through sort of examples on why his dad did it and how he could justify doing it to Wendy. I mean, it's to this point that he's basically gone.
Yeah. And then Brady lets him out, just like in the movie.
Yeah, I love that in the movie, as well as the books. But in the movie, you really feel it because up until then, you're not sure if any of this is actually happening. I mean, any of it.
And then I have a note here that Jack is stabbed in the back, which doesn't really happen in the movie.
No.
Though I see that he's like limping in the movie. I can't remember exactly when that happened.
Wendy hits him with the bat, and when he falls down the stairs, that's when he hurts his ankle.
That's right. Then I have that Jack attacks Wendy with a mallet, and that
he also attacks Halloran with the mallet and hits Halloran in the chest, and Halloran doesn't die.
Yep.
He's injured badly, and so is Wendy.
Yep.
But they don't die.
Correct. Wendy gets like an injured spine.
Yeah.
Lots of broken ribs. Like she's messed up.
Yeah, it's a roque mallet, which I had to look roque up when I first read this book. I'm like, what is that? So if you ever seen a roque mallet, they're pretty. You know what? Hold on. I can show you because in anticipation of the miniseries,
right? And you're like, I feel like a axe is just more intimidating on a show than that thing.
Oh, I'll agree. And putting it in the hands of Jack Nicholson, who had experience as a volunteer firefighter, he knew how to wield that thing.
And it's like, sorry, Dick. I wish he would have survived. Obviously, one of the biggest changes is they exploded the house.
Yeah, I mean, not only does he explode the house, but he does it to save his family as he regains his sanity. I think that was really important that Jack sort of have a redeeming moment where we're like, okay, the hotel is making him do this. He never was a good guy, but this once he can be the good guy and do the right thing for his family. So letting that place blow up was just ballsy and insane, and I thought it was a great conclusion. I mean, what do you get in the movie? Everything sort of freezes.
Right. I had here that in, the movie, Danny had called Jack like false face several times because like the house had taken over.
Yeah, he absolutely false face.
And that because the house was like taken over, it had forgot that to take care of the boiler, which is what led to the whole situation. Yep.
And Jack actually fought the hotel off to let it explode. And I mean, it's sort of a moment where, he looks back and for his wife and child, he is willing to fight that hard and give them a chance because he knows if I don't, they're dead. This place will never let him go.
Yep. There was one scene at the end where like they're fleeing. And it's also related to difference is that they're on a snowmobile, whereas in the show movie it's a snowcat.
Yeah, it's a snowcat.
Um, and mind you, I understand why they did a snowcat in a movie.
Yeah, me too.
What's his name? Scatteran is his name. I'm trying to think what it was. Have your Scatman
Scatman.
Crothers.
Yeah, Scatman Carruthers.
He was 67 at the time of the film. I wouldn't want to get in a fucking snowmobile either in a blizzard. It would be really cold. And he's from Florida. Oh. But yeah, there were a significant amount of changes as we kind of talked about here. Like,
yeah, and they are huge changes too. I mean, they're not like little ones. They are just story altering, which is why I say as an adaptation, it's not great.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say maybe 10-15% was similar, if that. But you gotta love the typewriter scene.
Oh, you
like
can't
even
go wrong with it.
Like when she's going through all the papers, like how unhinged is that?
I love that he changed the formats. Yeah. That's what I'm like. Yeah, that's some craziness right there. That you're gonna change up the formatting of you writing out all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And I feel sorry for the poor production assistant. Because Kubrick made them do that in different languages for every different market.
Oh. Were there any scenes or dialogue taken straight from the source, and which did it better?
The Redrum scene is probably my favorite.
From the book or the movie?
From the movie. In the book, it is different, but I mean, the whole Redrum thing is there. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of dialogue that is one for one in the movie at all.
Dialogue, no scenes. Maybe this one behind me. As a scene for like what was similar, but and I said like similar, like which one did it better?
The movie.
From a show perspective, I would say the movie did it better because I think how would you show a person feeling like something is there?
You can't.
From a film perspective, I'd say like obviously I like how they did it here. I think they did it better as a film. I had to say whether miniseries which did it better. I'll tell you next week.
Yeah, I mean I have my opinion, but I'll let you form your own.
Yep. Book wise, honestly, I think they're about equal as which one did it better. Because like I like the book how they did it.
For that particular ghost in that situation, absolutely. I would say they're pretty equal.
Yeah.
What happens in the movie is a lot more visually jarring.
Yeah.
But what's in the book is a lot more gut churning, spine tingling, awesome.
Yeah. Third question. How did the quality of the cinematography, special effects, sound effects, music affect the film adaptation of this work?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, everything about this movie is great from a, movie standpoint. The sound, the wardrobe, everything is on point. And let's face it, the soundtrack is amazing. That can't come on and you don't know what you're hearing. I mean, nothing in that movie hearing wise can you hear and not know what you're hearing.
If like we've mentioned, it's like tension straight from beginning to end.
Yeah, it does not let up.
No.
And I love that.
Cinematography is like that's 100% the movie.
Yeah, I mean it's Kubrick, and say what you want about the man, he was talented. He knew what he was doing, and even some of his movies that I don't care for, they were still shot beautifully.
He was like a psychopath for movies.
Yeah, I mean, 200-300 takes.
Yeah.
On a scene that was 5 seconds long. That's insane.
Wasn't there something special about how he did the Danny chase scene? It's like a roto something. Some special film.
It was the first time Steadicam was used.
Yep.
They had a guy chasing along after him. But yeah, he did do a rotoscope, I think.
Something like that. And like,
yeah, I'm not even 100% sure what that does, to be honest. I do know the Steadicam one, and we all know Steadicam now.
Special effects, like they didn't really use really much except for like the blood.
Yeah, which is weird because you know the analytical part of my brain is like that elevator is open and that blood's coming out. That is way too thin to be blood.
Mm-hmm.
If there's that much blood, it should be thick. But at the same time, that image is just seared into my brain and will freak me out forever.
And then you have the effects of like the lady.
Ooh, when she transitions, the decomp they do on her, like on her leg,
Mm-hmm.
particularly there's a patch where you can see she's decomposing, is just top notch. Gave me nightmares as a kid.
Obviously it doesn't the anywhere near like the book, but I mean,
Right.
for the budget and the time, this probably not being Kubrick's specialty.
I think the only questionable special effect I would question is the jack at the end, the
Right?
frozen jack. It,
Yeah.
it does come off as pretty
Yeah.
pretty hokey.
There was the axe to the chest to Dick, which
Yeah,
was it was what it was. It wasn't really hugely special effects, but it did get an award.
really.
Sort of. Um, I want to say he got an award for like best death or something at one point. But Scatman Crothers did win a Saturn Award for best supporting actor
I could see that.
in '81, and it did win best horror film in '81. Duvall had a Razzie Award for worst actress, but they rescinded that nomination
Oh, they should because
because of Kubrick's.
she perfectly did what was handed to her and in the worst possible situation.
Because that was back in '81, a Razzie Award for worst actress, and in 2022 they rescinded it because of Kubrick casting choices.
See, I'm torn because Jack Nicholson is so good
Mm-hmm.
because he is expressive and like I said, he comes off as crazy,
Yeah.
but he does it from the word go. So I've always wondered, you know, if you could cast somebody else, would they be able to effectively do it with the same script? And I don't have an answer for that. I can't think of anybody.
I don't think anyone else could have done this role.
Yeah, I can't picture it. Honestly, I'm not mad at any of the casting. I can't think of anybody. Well,
I mean, I
what's
love
his name?
Scatman as Halloran.
Oh, Halloran's awesome.
Yeah.
That is the one thing I'll say about the series is that their casting for Halloran was good on the series as well. You get a lot more of the Halloran from the book
Mm-hmm.
in the miniseries, so the casting for that was done really well as well. The only I think issue I have with any of the it's not even really casting. So yeah, I don't have any issue for the casting.
Yeah, it's like hard with like Danny because he's so young. Even in the book, he's 5. So it's like,
Yeah,
how do you really say if he's cast good or bad? He's like he's 5, 6 tops. But it's like I said, the guy is like the kid's like 5, 6, and it's like
yeah. Here's the thing, like
honestly, I put it this way: he wrote Redrum with half the word backwards, like it's supposed to be,
not just that,
fantastically.
when he comes into the lobby from getting choked,
Mm-hmm.
the catatonic look on his face was
Mm-hmm.
believable, 100%. I bought into it. So
Yeah,
I'm the best I think you could probably get out of a kid.
and like I don't know how old he actually was at the time. I'm assuming he was around like 72, so 8,
Yeah, 8 or 9,
give or
I
take,
think.
if depending when the movie was actually filmed versus released. Wendy, it's like Shelley Duvall. It's like it's so hard to, you know what I mean? Everything that went on, it's so hard to
Yeah,
because like I definitely get that to me I feel like she did a very loving mother role in the film.
she did. Like I said, I think she knocked it out of the park for what
Mm-hmm.
she was given.
And like the last 30 minutes of the film, 100% knock out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
You
beginning
feel
30,
her terror.
yeah. Beginning 30, not really. But I feel like that's more of a Kubrick thing than her. We don't really see Grady in the book, so like I don't really know how you'd say if he's perfectly cast or not.
Yeah.
I will say that as like the character versus the movie versus book, completely wrong.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Not, yeah.
Completely different character. Question 5 is, did the film capture the themes present in the book, or did it have its own themes?
It had its own, 100%.
What?
You heard me.
It didn't have
100%.
alcoholism as a theme?
No, no. Yeah, 100% different themes. It had its own agenda.
um, Traumatizing Wendy.
Ugh. It just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth knowing, some of the stuff they did to Shelley Duvall.
Mhm.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'd say it didn't capture the themes. No.
No,
Um,
I mean the closest
it
they come is there's a hotel, there's a dad, there's a mom, and there's a son.
there's
That's it.
alcohol,
Well, alcohol,
sort
yeah.
of.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even really play that big of a role in the movie. It's
Just that.
huge in the books.
Yeah.
Part of it was about redemption. You don't get that in the movie at
Hmm.
all. That sort of family love, especially a
Oh
child
yeah, it
or
was
a son
completely
to their father.
completely gone.
Yeah, that's not there.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying. It definitely has its own thing going on.
Yep.
I think it's more about a man giving himself into evil
Hmm.
as opposed to being taken over by evil. Um, you know, yeah, Kubrick was telling his own story within the framework of a hotel,
Definitely.
and that's about all they have in common.
Uh, I do know that the one of the things the hotel is doing, and this is kind of common in the movie as well, slightly, is like the racist shit it was telling Jack
Oh yeah.
in the book and the movie. Like
Oh yeah,
regarding
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Dick and stuff,
In the movie, it was
white man's guilt and all that
Garrity
crap.
sort of.
But like in the
Your
in
son's
the
trying to bring a third party in and
yeah,
starts dropping some language. It's like, ugh.
because I mentioned was it Jack mentioned like white man's guilt or something, and then blah blah blah, and like in the pantry we had the was it the
The Calumet.
yeah, that kind of stuff going on, and then like whatever all that stuff is, and in the book we had comments made by the house to Jack constantly about like racist shit.
Oh yeah. It's weird because within the book, that when that the hotel is speaking to him, it's not really the hotel. It's sort of individuals
Yep.
dotted throughout,
Yep.
but they're all awful
Hmm.
in their own sort of way.
And I
Um,
want to say like it felt like it was Grady telling him that.
Probably.
It
Um,
felt like a Grady thing.
like I just listened to it too. I finished it like 3 hours before I went on the puppets today, and I think it was Grady.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
think
that
it
was a
was
Grady
Delbert.
thing because he was like that uneducated guy.
Yeah,
And for whatever reason, like Jack in the book were like repeated or the movie repeated that out of like nowhere.
yeah,
And he
yeah.
didn't really come off that way in the beginning of the movie.
No, you're 100% right. I think I skipped over a lot of. I remember the first time reading being very shocked by some of the language.
Hmm.
Of course, I read it when I was 13. So,
And I'm not entirely sure like where that comes in as a theme, but for whatever reason, like in the book, he like starts agreeing with the house on that stuff.
Well, he started. Yeah, I
over
mean,
something. I'm not sure what he's agreeing with it on, but yeah,
in the
you're right.
movie, in the movie, it's mostly about correcting
Hmm.
his
Oh,
son
medicine.
and
Yeah, yeah.
blaming his wife. They start to agree on that,
Hmm.
and that's sort of the way in. But you're right, in the books, it's sort of,
It's probably about the medicine.
yeah, the little pup taking its medicine. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I know in what was it, the book, he broke Danny's arm, like right in the forearm, I think it was.
Um, yeah, I think it was
Or
up
is it up
here
here?
actually. Yeah, yeah, because he grabbed him by the meat of his arm and jerked him, and it actually broke the bone. I think
And
right
that
here.
takes quite a bit.
Well, yeah, because they mentioned he had to wear a sling for like a long time.
Hmm. Like that's not a that's not a little bit of force to break that.
No, that's a lot of force.
Yeah. That's not just a, oh, I pulled you out of traffic. That's a lot harder than that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, from the angle he had to
Yep.
bend back. So
There were parts of like some of the stuff, like just snaps that he did, or he like black out almost. Kind of like Danny, like blacking out almost.
it's weird because
Hmm.
Danny's was like for information. It was almost like information
Hmm.
overload would cause him to black out, and with Jack, it's more rage overload.
Hmm. Last question is rating the episode or movie episode. Um, Having read the book, how do you rate the film out of 10?
Well, here's the thing: as a movie, I'm giving that 9.9. I mean, it's almost a perfect movie if it wasn't for some of the shenanigans behind the camera. As an adaptation, honestly, 3. I can't give it more than 3.
As an adaptation?
Yeah,
As a standalone film, and as impartial as you can be, how would you rate it? Like as if you'd never read the books.
9.9. Like I said,
And then taking both those into consideration.
overall,
Yep.
with both included, 5.5.
I would probably say like
Well,
as
no, I'd
hmm,
actually have to go higher because it's such a good movie. I'm
right,
actually going to go, you know what, a solid 7 because the movie's so good.
fair. I would say like as a adaptation, um honestly I'm just gonna go 7. Like how it treated the books to the movie. Like even though it didn't get anything right from the books at all, how it transformed that, I even though it's like not even close, I have to give like a 7.
Okay.
I can't go too much lower on that. Um it's how they transformed it to me is like how they did good. Um I could go lower, like being how accurate they did it. If I said how accurate, for like a 1, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like we said, almost nothing of the
Yeah.
book is actually there,
So like if I were saying
theme
like how
theme
accurate
wise.
it is, probably a 1.
That's
But
why I
like,
gave it a,
yeah. So like as if I go by accuracy, like a 1. Having read it and rating it, it's like a 7. As a standalone film, I'd say like a 9 out of 10.
yeah,
Putting together,
it's
I'll say like 8 out of 10.
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It's just like I said, as an adaptation, there's almost nothing.
Yeah.
So I can't really go that high
Hmm.
on even though I think what they did was awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a great movie and it will forever be one of my favorite horror slash. I think it's more suspense than horror to me.
Yeah.
It comes off as more suspense than horror, but it'll always be one of my favorite movies, period. but as an adaptation, there's just so much lost that it's not even close to the book.
I'd say agreeable. And it's like one of those hard parts of like it's so different from the book, but it's similar in areas, but the themes are all different. It's almost its own thing entirely.
It honestly is.
Yeah.
To me, they're different stories completely that happen to have characters.
Honestly, I think the only reason King hates it is because Kubrick did it slightly better. And this is probably the one time King can say his ending was better. So he should be proud.
Yeah, definitely has an issue with endings. Yeah,
he should be proud. His ending was actually better for once.
I know. I've delved a lot into the subject of why Stephen King didn't like Kubrick's version, and you know, he likes to repeat the same thing: is that all the warmth and joy that was in Jack and Danny's relationship and life is absent. There's none of it in the film, and that was what was driving the story in the book. So he just doesn't like that. But I mean, Stephen King doesn't have perfect taste. He doesn't like The Wheel of Time. So
yeah, I agree with what he says. But like as a horror film, I think this is
so good,
fantastic.
Oh, agreed.
And like I said, as a horror film, I think this is better as a horror film than The Shining is a horror book.
Because I don't think the book's really a horror, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more family drama than anything else.
Yeah.
With a little bit of paranormal thrown in.
And that's why I feel like the movie is in some ways better, but King did have a better ending.
Yeah, I really look forward to when you see the miniseries. Because I'm wondering if you're going to have the same sort of train of thought that I have about it. So I'm really excited.
Well, hopefully our changes portion will be a little shorter.
Well, yeah, I mean it will be. That's the thing is this entire movie I could have started at the first scene and ended at the final scene when you ask for changes. Please come back next week. We're going to be doing the miniseries. So we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Give us a like, subscribe if you can, and don't forget to be awesome.